Happy Thursday morning, everybody. Making a couple notes here. I just noticed that I got a bunch of LinkedIn notifications that I haven't looked at. So I got to check on LinkedIn here today. I don't even hop on LinkedIn that often, other than when I do my live streams. But I noticed that I got a lot that I need to catch up on over there. We're making some edits to podcast layout this morning or yesterday going into this morning. So if you listen to my show called Work on Your Game, which comes out every day, you can find it on your favorite podcasting apps like Apple and Spotify. Made some edits to the intro and the way we lay out the introduction of the show because the intro was a little bit too long. I would give this long intro explaining, not long, but like 45 seconds explaining the show. And then we had this long intro clip of music. And I was just talking to my audio team that we're going to cut that down and make that a lot more simple so we can get straight to the content. I think people just want to get straight to the content these days. I think people pretty much got a feel for what we're doing. And I'm looking at Facebook. Facebook is giving me some issues here. So let me get my Facebook Live going properly. Every once in a while we get an issue with Facebook. So let me fix this thing on Facebook. As y'all coming in, shout out your locations. Tell me where you are checking in from. And we are going to get started in a minute. Today we're going to talk about Israel and Iran, the Israel-Iran conflict. Yesterday I was on X and some people were trying to say that anybody who doesn't know how to pronounce Iran properly, they shouldn't be talking about it, which is a nonsense logical fallacy, but it was funny. But now that someone pointed it out, now I'm very aware of it. I'm very conscious of it. I used to call it Iran, but we'll call it Iran because, I mean, that is the quote unquote proper pronunciation of it. But that doesn't mean somebody can't have an opinion just because they may be pronouncing something wrong. There's a lot of things people pronounce wrong. Other countries as well. North Carolina is in the building over there on Instagram. King Works 21 checking in from Tuscaloosa. Good to see you. Are we good on Facebook? Okay, now we got Facebook working properly. We're good on Rumble Studio, good on YouTube, good on X. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are live on LinkedIn. I don't know what's happening on LinkedIn. I have no idea. Tay Gunner has an opinion on Iran. Okay, fair enough. I will tell you where I stand on this in a moment. Let's see what we got going on TikTok. Traditional all day. Good morning here. Carrie, go get them. Good morning. Yes, everybody tap the screen on your way in. We had 1,000 likes already. Let's get to 2,000. Marky Man, good morning. Newburgh, New York. Carol Ann, good morning. Carolyn Rudder, checking in from Atlanta. Good morning. Lacey River from Washington State. Shout out to Washington State. It rains too much up there for me, but it is a beautiful place. There's a lot of greenery, a lot of trees, a lot of mountains, a lot of rain, a lot of nature up there. Shout out to Washington State. Greenville, North Carolina is in the building. Good morning. Cleveland, Ohio, Mr. Ohio J, good morning. Indiana from the USA. Now, I do know Indiana is in the USA, legend, so I appreciate that. Is that Larry Legend 33? Shout out to Indiana. Tonight's the NBA Finals. That game is in Indiana, right? Okay, so the Pacers, they got to hold down their home court. Or this thing's going to be over. I think OKC might win it tonight, but we'll see. Tony checking in from Nashville, Tennessee. Shout out to Tennessee. I know a lot of people in Tennessee, a lot of entrepreneurs. I know a lot of thought leader people are in Tennessee. Sal checking in from Jordan. Shout out to Jordan. So what we're going to talk about today is the Israel-Iran conflict. And is this going to lead to World War III? What is the United States' role in this? And where do a lot of Americans have a lot of different opinions on this. And Lacey said, it is beautiful here. It does rain too much. Yeah, it rains a lot up there, but it is nice up there. I've been up there a few times. It is nice up there. I got some clients up there as well. Charlotte is in the house. Nate Real, Natural. Good morning. Tony said Nashville is booming. That's what I've heard. Yes, Nashville is booming. I've heard that Nashville is going up. If Miami had Nashville's housing prices, I would love Miami even more. But I can't move to Nashville because it gets a little bit too cold up there. Michigan is in the building. China H, good morning. So this Israel-Iran conflict. All right, let's get into talking about this. Michelle checking in from Florida. I don't follow Middle East politics closely, so I don't have very strong opinions on this because I generally just don't pay attention to this stuff that much. So I have no basis upon which to base an opinion. But we are going to talk about it because it is a subject. But I went and looked up some things on it, and that's what we're going to discuss from what I have looked up. So I don't have a dog in this race. Now, this conflict between Iran and Israel might seem like distant noise to most Americans, to some of you, but it's one of those global flashpoints that will have ripple effects from everyone, at least from what I found. It seems like this is something that's going to affect everybody, especially since President Donald Trump has had some comments on this. So obviously, the United States is engaged and involved. And I've seen a lot of people who do pay attention to what they call geopolitics have been having comments, at least Americans have been having a lot of comments on this whole thing, what they think about this conflict between Iran and Israel. So Donald Trump has made some comments. You saw, or maybe some of you saw, Tucker Carlson has been having several, he's had a lot to say about it. Steve Bannon's had a lot to say about it. Ted Cruz was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. They were having a conversation. Candace Owens has made a comment about it. And there's a lot of people, it appears to me, and y'all can tell me if this is right or wrong, that a lot of MAGA people seem to be in conflict with Donald Trump about what appears to be his stance on the conflict. That Donald Trump has made some comments. Let's see if we can find what Donald Trump says. I don't have Truth Social, but I am following Donald Trump and I think he reposts a lot of stuff from his Truth Social onto X. So let's see what Donald Trump has had to say here. I don't think he reposts everything. I think there's an account that actually takes everything Donald Trump says on Truth Social, and then they post it over on, let me see if I can find that. Because there used to be an account that did this. I don't know if it's still there. Commentary, Donald Trump posts. Yeah, I think this is it. Commentary, Donald Trump posts from Truth Social. So if you follow this account on X, it has 2.4 million followers. They basically take all the stuff where Donald Trump is saying something, and they repost it from Truth Social, which is his account, his company, over to X. So let's see what he's been saying. He's been saying a lot. So we can't repost all of this. He's been saying a lot over the last couple of days about this. Let's see where he first started talking about this. Now I'm saying this to put this in context. So he's talking about the bill. Then he's talking about, no, that's not it. No, not this. No, not that. No, it doesn't really have it. So let's go back to Donald Trump's other account where it's just a few things. He has 106 million followers, on X. And this is what he said on a day ago, yesterday. What time did he post this? At 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 days ago. This is actually on the 17th. Today's the 19th. Donald Trump said the following: "We have complete and total control over the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured quote-unquote stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA." All right, so he's not really saying much, but I guess he's offering it a little veiled threat there. Then he said this. Oh, right after that. He said, "We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader, quote-unquote, is hiding." I believe he's referring to the leader in Iran. "He is an easy target, but it is safe there. We are not going to take him out, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles aimed at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter." So another veiled threat. And then he says, when did he say this? But these all got posted at the same time. So actually, I don't know when he actually said these. They just posted them all at the same time. Last thing they have from Donald Trump is him saying unconditional surrender in all capital letters. That's the last thing that we heard Donald Trump say, at least from this X account. I don't know why he won't just post on X. I guess he's just decided he's not going to mess with X, and he has some people post on his behalf. But what I'm bringing all that up to say, that it appears that some MAGA supporters are against Donald Trump's position when it comes to this conflict. Is that true? We got any MAGA supporters in here? Is that true that some MAGA supporters are not feeling Donald Trump's stance on Iran, Israel right now? And it appears, again, this is just what I've been able to pick up just from context clues. I do not follow geopolitics like that. I don't pay attention to what's happening in this area of the world very much. But from the context clues that I've picked up, it looks like people are saying that the United States and Israel are kind of on the same team and they support each other. And we know the United States gives money to Israel. We know that. And that the United States and Israel are kind of fighting together against Iran. That's what it looks like. And if the United States gets into this conflict against Iran on behalf of Israel, then it brings the United States into a conflict where we're sending our soldiers over to foreign lands to fight a battle that's not really our battle. That's what it looks like I'm hearing people saying. Again, this is me not knowing too much about this situation. So yeah, so some people are saying, okay, some of you are saying no boots on the ground. Well, if we get involved, then we will have boots on the ground. So the hostility dates back. Now, we know that these kind of conflicts have often have years and years and decades and decades. So Tay Gunner says, yes, these things have decades and decades of history. It's not like something just happened 3 weeks ago and all of a sudden this conflict came out of nowhere. Same way that there was the conflict between Israel and Palestine. That didn't just come out of nowhere. There's a whole bunch of things been going on for years, and certain things happen, and then it becomes headline news. So based on what I was able to gather, this is what I found. That this goes back decades. Iran's Islamic Republic refuses to recognize Israel. It funds militant groups such as, and hopefully TikTok doesn't ban me for the things I'm saying here today. So I'm just going off what I found. So TikTok, don't get mad at me. In context, all I'm doing is laying out the foundation here. I'm not making an argument on either side of this. So TikTok, don't ban me here today. Make sure y'all like the live on TikTok. We're at 13,000, get to 15,000. If y'all see my live all of a sudden just end out of nowhere, if y'all watching me on TikTok, hop over to my YouTube. The link's in there, or my Instagram. The link is in there. Hopefully I don't get banned here today. But again, I'm just giving the background here, TikTok. I'm not making an argument or a case for either side of this conflict because, frankly, I don't know enough about it to say. I'm just giving the background that I found. So they say that Iran, they fund militant groups in like Hezbollah and Lebanon, Hamas, and Gaza. They constantly threaten Israel's existence, allegedly. Now, Israel sees these ambitions by Iran and its network as a threat. So they both are looking at each other like a threat. So this long-term tension has now escalated, and Israel is starting to attack Iran. They're attacking their nuclear and military infrastructure in Iran and in Syria and in Lebanon. And Iran has responded with attacks on Israel. So they're starting to go at each other. We generally know that. That's why this is news. Now, beyond that, Tehran has launched cyber operations and boats launched cyber operations and fast boats at shipping in the Red Sea. Now, Trump is here in the White House in the United States doubling down on his maximum pressure policy. Donald Trump, this has kind of been his style with any conflict that he's decided to speak on. He's reimposing deep sanctions. He's giving vocal diplomatic backing to Israel. So this is where a lot of MAGA is kind of in conflict with Trump right now, saying, hey, you're backing Israel, but Israel is in this conflict and we don't want to get involved in this. Let Israel handle their own business. It sounds like it. He's moving military assets into the region, which I just showed you in that post that Donald Trump said that we have these American-made tanks and missiles and weapons, et cetera, but this is not an American conflict. So why is he bragging about American missiles? America's not the one in the conflict. So that's, I think, where a lot of people have an issue here. He's issuing evacuations advisories to U.S. citizens, telling them basically, if you're in there, get the hell out of there. And he's calling for an end to Iran's nuclear program and not a temporary deal. Now, while the administration insists, the Trump administration is insisting that is not directly involved in Israeli strikes, that doesn't quite sound like it because Donald Trump, I just read you his post, he's talking shit about all these weapons and all these things that we have as America. But what does that have to do with us if we're not the ones in the conflict? So the administration is saying one thing, but reality is saying another thing. Donald Trump is saying another thing. So he's talking about the weapons that we have. Who we fighting? I didn't know we were in a fight. So again, just from the outside looking in, just looking at this at a surface level, there's a conflict between what Trump is saying and what the administration is saying. And the administration insists we're not directly involved. The posture and moral support are clear. And yes, they are. Iran, meanwhile, is accusing the United States of fueling aggression and abusing global power. And Iran is digging in, which basically means Iran is looking at this conflict with Israel and saying, okay, United States, we see you hiding in the shadows. and we're not going to act like we don't see you. So Iran is looking at the United States and saying, okay, you want to be in this fight, then if you want to be in it. Now, this matters to Americans. Why? Because even if you don't pay attention to this stuff, which generally I don't, a broader conflict between these three powers, U.S., Iran, Israel, this could pull America in. It could raise prices of oil because a lot of it comes from that area of the world. And if they don't like us, then they may raise the prices on us. It could trigger all types of attacks, different types, cyber terror, etc. And it could shift global markets, policy, and even domestic security. This could lead to a whole lot of things. So that's the foundation of what we're talking about here today. Let's talk about this a little bit more. So Donald Trump has reimposed some sanctions and pressure on Iran economically, and this could signal serious U.S. resolve. And this is Donald Trump's posture has been like this from the very beginning. He's not someone coming in and saying, hey, let's work together. Let's figure this out. Let's compromise. He's the one coming in saying, this is the way it's going to be. This is the way we need to make it work out. And if y'all remember that clip of him sitting with the leader from, what's our guy's name? Zelensky, and him sitting in the White House, and that conversation they were having. And Donald Trump was saying to him, like, listen, you're in no position to tell us what we need to do. And Donald Trump seems to be that type of person. Seems like he talks that way all the time. He does it in person the few times we see it, and he does it online through his social media posts. I don't think he's fronting. I think this is just his normal way of communicating. These sanctions, though, they risk punishing citizens more than they punish leadership, and it empowers hardliners. So this is what happens with the sanctions. The United States says, okay, well, we're going to impose these penalties on you, and it's actually hurting the everyday person more than it's hurting the leaders that they're trying to affect. But this is one of the casualties of conflict. One of the casualties of conflict is that everyday people who didn't start the conflict and may not even be in favor of the conflict, they find themselves being subjected to the byproduct, so to speak, of the conflict. And that's the issue that some people are saying is, hey, why would you do something like this? You're punishing citizens in other places that have nothing to do. They are not the reason that the leadership is doing what they're doing, but you can't really hurt the leadership that much. So you hurt the citizens as a way of indirectly getting the attention of the leadership. That's pretty much one of the tactics that people use in war and in international conflict. This happens often. This is not a new thing. Now, vocal U.S. support for Israel. Israel does have a lot of support in the United States. Not 100%, but they do have a lot of support in the United States. This enhances the deterrence, and it reassures that Israel has allies. And I think it's generally accepted that Israel has an ally in the United States of America. I think we generally can accept that. And Donald Trump has been, I think, even over his first term, pretty clear of his support of this, and many other politicians in the United States pretty clear on the support. Whereas you have a bunch of other people who have been actively and openly critical of Israel for different reasons. Of course, with the ongoing conflict that they already had going on, they already had another battle going on that, I don't know, you could, depend on who you want to ask, may not be much of a battle. But there's there's divided opinion. Let's just say that. United States of America, I think the opinion is strongly divided. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Tell me what y'all think in terms of the support versus criticism of Israel and the United States of America, pro/con. So is it like 90-10? Is it 50-50? Is it 70-30? Is it 60-40? I think, again, I don't pay a ton of attention to this, but I think it's pretty close to about 60-40. Pro versus con. Even though the people who are con are often people with big megaphones and they're pretty loud and they're pretty staunch and pretty strong in where they stand. No, actually, it might be closer to 50-50 the more I think about it. What do y'all think? I'm thinking it's about 60-40 sounds about right, because if it was 50-50, then it might not be going the way it is going. I think it's about 60-40. Taegun says 70-30 on pro Israel side. Traditional says 60-40. I'm looking at it. Okay, 70-30, 60-40 is about where it looks like in the United States of America. It's definitely not half and half. It can't be half and half, because the United States seems to be very strongly on the side of supporting Israel for whatever reason you may believe. So the U.S. alignment with Israel, their action, and it inflames regional anti-American sentiment. Is that true? Yes, it does. Because if there is a conflict between two countries that are not the United States, they have a conflict, and the United States jumps in and says, we're going to support these guys, then, of course, the other guys are going to say, okay, so the United States is jumping in to fight for our opponent against us, okay, that means y'all are against us. I mean, that's pretty much how it goes. You either, if you jump into the conflict, it's one thing to stay out of the conflict, but if you jump in, then you're saying this is the side that you're on. This is what was happening when we had the conflict between the U country and the R country. I'm not going to push my luck on TikTok by mentioning all these countries here today, but during the Biden administration, they made it clear we are going to support the U country because the R country is wrong and they've done this and this and this. You remember all the things that Kamala and Joe Biden kept saying about why we need to support the U country and they have a right to defend themselves, et cetera, et cetera. That was the United States jumping in on one side of a conflict, not jumping in and saying we're going to resolve it, which is what Trump is saying. He's saying we're going to resolve that conflict between the R country and the U country. The Biden administration is jumping in and saying, no, we're going to support this side of it. And either way, whichever way you jump into it, especially if you jump in on one side or the other, now you're telling that other side, we are against you too. And again, that could lead to them eventually doing something to us. That could lead to them eventually attacking us because you jumped into a fight. So is there anti-American sentiment over there in Iran? I would think so. I think it's probably pretty strong given what we know so far. So let's get the likes up on TikTok. Let's get up to 30,000 likes, please. So emphasizing this quote unquote real end, which is Donald Trump's words. He said, we want a real end to this nuclear pursuit by Iran. It draws a hard security boundary. And that works unless it doesn't work. That's the issue. It's a strong stance by Donald Trump. Whether you agree with it or not, we all can agree that it is a strong stance to come out and say, this is what I want. No equivocation. I'm not going back and forth. I'm not saying maybe this or maybe that. I'm not coming in like a dove and saying, let's work it out and compromise. I'm saying this is exactly what needs to happen. And Donald Trump's stance has been from the very beginning. You remember his conflict with Little Rocket Man versus Big Rocket Man? Remember that in his first administration, the Rocket Man thing? That Donald Trump comes in with this hard stance. Like, listen, we got the biggest rockets, the biggest weapons, the most airplanes, the most military, the most everything. If push comes to shove, we'll win. That's been Donald Trump's stance from the beginning. And Donald Trump is a negotiator. So if you haven't read any of his books, and The Art of the Deal, he talks about this. His whole thing is negotiation. He loves making deals. And making deals does not necessarily mean compromise. Making deals means we agree on how this is going to go. And often for somebody like him, how it's going to go means is more in favor of him than it is in favor of the other person. Sometimes it can be a quote unquote fair deal, but he wants to come out on top of his deals because winning is part of the game. I mean, Donald Trump, if you read his books, he talks about this all the time. Winning is a big thing. His book, the book that I was reading from the other day, where I was telling you all that funny story about getting revenge, is called Think Big and Kick Ass. That book is all about winning. There's a chapter in that book that is all about win, win, win. It's all about winning. So Donald Trump loves to make deals. And one of the deals he's trying to make here is, I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to do it. And everybody gets to survive and tell the story of it. That's the deal that he wants to make. And this is the way that he's coming in. Very different than Joe Biden's approach. Very different than, if you could imagine, a Kamala Harris approach. Very different than a Barack Obama approach. He has a very different approach to how he's doing things. It's maybe a little bit closer to, I guess you could say, George W. Bush. I saw somebody post it was on X this morning that I saw. It might have been posted yesterday. And it said, you thought you voted for this guy, but you actually got this guy. And there was a picture of Donald Trump. Then right next to it, it was a picture of, it was like George W. Bush's face, but it was on Donald Trump's body. So you could tell it was supposed to be like showing Donald Trump is basically turned into George W. Bush. George W. Bush, if you remember, after what happened in 9/11, he convinced us, or convinced the people he needed to convince, that we needed to go into places that might not have anything to do with 9/11. And that led to a very long conflict and a lot of lives lost by American soldiers because of George W. Bush's decision. But we voted for George W. Bush, so that's what we got. So D. Aberdeen says, not going to happen the way he think, but we'll have to see. Well, we'll see if Donald Trump actually means that, which leads to my next point. Donald Trump is pretty good at playing this game of brinksmanship. For those of you who don't know what that means, brinksmanship is when you kind of push things to the brink, when it seems like things are about to get crazy, right on the edge. And then all of a sudden you're willing to pull back and things end up working out copacetically, and it doesn't become crazy. Donald Trump's pretty good at that. Why is he good at it? Because first of all, the only way brinksmanship works is if people believe that you will actually go over the edge. If people believe you'll cross the line, then your brinksmanship can work. But if you keep fronting or pretending as if you will go to a certain point, but you never actually do it, or people don't believe you will actually do it, then brinksmanship does not work. So people had to believe that you will push the button, so to speak, and do the thing that you're threatening. If they believe that you'll do it, then they'll take your threat seriously. Donald Trump's threats get taken seriously because people do believe that he will push the button and he will go to an extreme that many people might not be willing to go to, or they don't really want him to go to. And if you truly believe he will do what he says he's going to do, because America does have the most artillery when it comes to conflict, physical conflict. If it turns to that, we have the artillery to do it. Now, it's going to cost us bodies in the process, and a lot of Americans don't want that. But could we do it? We could do it. Are we capable? We're capable. And do you think Donald Trump would do it? I do think he would do it. Now, if the other countries think he would do it, then the things that he's threatening are merely negotiation tactics. That's why I'm giving you all this background. Donald Trump likes to negotiate. He likes to make deals. And he makes deals the way that he likes to make deals, which is often threatening you of, if you don't do things the way I want you to do it, here's what I'm going to do. All right, here's where it's going to work. Tay Gunner says, the Kamala won, Israel may not be here anymore, probably. Well, good thing Kamala didn't win. I didn't want Kamala to win, not because of that, but I already gave my too many opinions on Kamala already. We may come back to that. We may not. But this is what Donald Trump's doing. He's playing brinksmanship right now. And he wants to see if he can get Iran to blink. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know enough about Iran and their leaders to give you a judgment call on what I think is going to happen. But this is what he's trying to do. All right, this is what he's trying to do. And Aberdeen says, with what people, he done fired everyone in the government. Well, the people I'm talking about is the soldiers. The soldier, he pushed the button, the soldiers are going to do whatever he tells them to do if we decide to send our own soldiers into the conflict. Right now, it sounds like, according to what Trump is saying and what I've heard most people say, we're sending our weapons and using our money to support Israel, but we haven't sent our people yet. Now, if we start sending our warm bodies, our soldiers into the conflict, then we are officially in it. We're officially in it. And at that point, and in order for that to happen, actually, he has to go through Congress, because you have to go through Congress to declare war. We'll see if it gets that far. Hopefully it does not. Hopefully we can keep things peaceful amongst the entire world, but peace is protected. Peace is protected and defended by war. This is the way it works. If you want peace, then you have to be willing to go to war. That's the way life works. It doesn't mean you will go to war, but you have to be willing to go to war. You want people to not bother you, you got to be willing to fight. Why? Because they know that if they keep bothering you, then a fight's going to happen. Most people would rather prefer to not have the fight, so they'll rather just leave you alone. And this is the thing. And if Donald Trump decides, America has been playing cop to the world for a long time now, if we decide that we want things to go a certain way in a fight that doesn't actually involve us, or not directly, then we got to be willing to prove that the threats that we're making, we will actually follow through on. Donald Trump's making these threats. I don't think he wants to have to follow through on these threats, but he must be willing to, because as soon as you put the threat out there, you better be willing to do it. You can't make a threat and you ain't going to do it. Because as soon as people realize that you make threats that you won't follow through on, now they won't trust anything that you said. They're not going to believe you next time you make a threat. So this is the conflict that Donald Trump has created by saying this, and this conflict creates pressure. And that pressure is right now, he's trying to put pressure on Iran to see if they'll blink. We don't know if they're going to blink. If they blink, then we get peace and things will work out the way Trump says they're going to work out. But if they don't blink, well, we may end up with a bigger problem. Now, if they don't blink, but let's see. So rejecting these temporary agreements may collapse diplomatic channels and drive escalation. So this is one of the criticisms that people have of Trump right now, is that these temporary agreements, like when they push back the banning of TikTok, they're supposed to ban TikTok and they keep not banning TikTok, is because he keeps pushing it back and saying, okay, we're not going to do it yet. We're going to do this. We're not going to do it yet. We're going to do this. So let me find what Candace Owens said, because Candace Owens has gone in deep on this. I got to listen to some Candace Owens content on this, because she pays attention to this stuff a lot more than I do. Let me find, it was something that she said a few days ago about Trump, where she was highly critical of Trump, where she said, where was it? It was, so let me find this first. She's been talking about this a lot, so she's been going hard. So 1 year of her, she's talking about her independent podcast, and Candace Owens has been smashing it on her independent podcast on YouTube, by the way. You want to know if someone has real substance, not that you agree with them, but that they have real substance, is that when they go from being inside of a machine and then they go to doing things independently and they actually perform even better, then you know they have real substance. Candace Owens has real substance. Again, I'm not telling you have to agree with Candace Owens, but you can't say she doesn't have substance, because she went from being on the Daily Wire, which is a machine that has a built-in audience, They got rid of her and she went to having her own platform and she actually got bigger, which means she was always good. Now, if someone goes from a machine to outside the machine and they disappear, like Don Lemon, like Joy Reid, like many others, then you know that they were garbage all along, because now take away the built-in audience, they just disappear off the face of the earth because they were never good. But anyway, that's not the point. Here's what Candace Owens said 2 days ago. She said, Donald Trump has just completely fractured his base. And he did it for the very neocons who minted the Never Trump movement. Truly unbelievable. This is in response to a post that Donald Trump posted 3 days ago where he said, Donald Trump said, someone please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson. So Donald Trump basically attacked Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. This is what Donald Trump says. So there's a whole lot of conflict within MAGA. Let's talk on that for a moment while we're on the subject, because a lot of people who are not MAGA supporters, I am not on any political side, by the way, I have no political affiliation. Please like the live. Please, can we get up to 40,000 likes, please, on TikTok? But a lot of people who don't like MAGA have continually gone with this pejorative belief that MAGA is a brainwashed cult of people who just follow Donald Trump blindly and go along with anything Donald Trump says, no matter what he says, no matter how dumb it is, no matter how many times he lies, no matter how ridiculous it is. That's what a lot of people who don't like MAGA have continually said for the last 10 years. Is that true? Everybody's been saying that about MAGA. Well, this is disproving that very much, because a bunch of people who are MAGA supporters, open MAGA supporters, open conservatives, openly Republican, openly saying, I support Donald Trump, are coming out and clearly, with no equivocation, saying, I disagree with Donald Trump on this point. I don't see that happening on the political left too often. All right, can you name something that people on the political left came out and said, I am openly against Joe Biden or Kamala Harris on this particular point? Can you name anything during the 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration that happened? I can't name one thing. But this one right here is a whole bunch of people on the right, clearly on the right. Tucker Carlson's on the right. Candace Owens is on the right. And a bunch of other people on the right saying, I'm disagreeing with Donald Trump on this. Donald Trump is wrong on this. And I don't see anybody on the political left saying that about anyone, any leader on the left. Even Joe Biden, when it was clear that Joe Biden was declining Biden, nobody was coming out and saying, a lot of people on the left weren't saying anything. They were trying to kind of filibuster the conversation. Now that Joe Biden is out, now all of a sudden everybody's coming out and acting like they knew it all along. Corinne Jean-Pierre talking about she's independent now, which is ridiculous. Stephen A. Smith all of a sudden is independent. All these people who are on the left supporting Joe Biden and saying, oh, well, he just had one bad night. Really? Really? The guy's 80-something years old and he can't put together a sentence on the national stage, the most important speaking he's going to do all year. He couldn't put together a damn sentence. Now he had a bad night. Really? This is what the people on the political left were doing in the summer of 2024. All of us remember this, but they're the ones who turn around and say, oh, it's the other guys. It's MAGA who can't think for themselves. It's MAGA who does everything Donald Trump says. It's MAGA who never disagrees with Donald Trump. It's MAGA who's a big cult and they're just brainwashed and they just are too stupid to think for themselves. They're the ones disagreeing with the leader right now. I didn't see anybody doing this with Joe Biden until after Joe Biden was out of office. Now, all of a sudden, we got all this revisionist history. Jake Tapper writing books. Jake Tapper's writing books about how Biden administration covered up Biden. Really, Jake Tapper? Really? He's the one writing a book about how they were covering up. Dude, you were part of the cover up. Did you hear this dude on TV? Did you hear him on TV in 2024 and 23 and 22 and 21? Now, all of a sudden, it's the MAGA side that's disagreeing with the leader. I don't see anybody on the left saying anything about this one. I mean, it was Elon Musk 2 weeks ago. Elon Musk, who declared himself MAGA, and Elon Musk is he didn't come up MAGA. Elon Musk comes from Silicon Valley. He jumped over to the MAGA side because he decided that was the best thing for him to do. Fine. Then he disagreed with Donald Trump, started trashing Donald Trump. People on the left were celebrating. Oh, these people are going at each other. They were happy about it, but nobody noticed the actual point. Now there is a more serious issue that people can't joke about on the left or the right. Nobody's joking about this one right here, this Iran-Israel thing. Nobody's pointing out the irony of the fact that a whole bunch of strong political right-leaning people are saying they disagree with Donald Trump and saying it openly. All right, they're not even equivocating about this. They're saying it openly. Candace Owens again. Donald Trump, and this post got 9 million views 3 days ago, the 16th at 8 o'clock at night. 3 days ago, Candace Owens says Donald Trump just completely fractured his base, and he did it for the very neocons who minted the Never Trump movement. In other words, a bunch of conservatives who don't like Donald Trump seems to be going along with them right now. That's what Candace is saying. Now, I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree. I'm just pointing out the interesting thing, which is someone who clearly is conservative. No one can say Candace Owens on the left, saying she disagrees with Trump. And then Trump goes after Tucker Carlson. Trump is now mocking Tucker for not being on TV. I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen. This is Candace talking about Trump. Completely out of touch and ironic given the fact that podcasters won Trump the election. This is, again, Candace Owens 2 days ago. Another thing somebody said that Candace retweeted. They lied about Libya. They lied about Syria. They lied about Iraq. They are lying about Iran. And I don't know who they is that this person is referring to, but I guess people understood that in context. This guy's name is Ken O'Keefe. He used to be in the military. Let's see what else. So Candace Owens came back yesterday. So I will be listening to Candace Owens. If y'all not listening to Candace Owens, she does actual journalism, deep dive, investigative journalism. There are not too many people doing it these days, especially doing it on a large scale with a big audience. She is one of the few. So, again, whether you like her or not is not the question. Whether you're a Republican or not is not the question. Whether you're a MAGA or not is not the question. If you want to hear someone do deep dive investigative journalism, Candace Owens is doing it. Now, I can't give a better endorsement than that. Anyway, let me see what else she said. So this one's a little bit too long. But Candace has been, I think all of you can see, Candace has been, if you pay attention, she has been openly critical of Israel for, when did October 7th happened? Was that 2022 or 20? What year is it? Was it 23? What year was October 7th? Was it 2023 or 22? I think it was 23. Whatever year that was. From then until now, Candace Owens has been openly critical of Israel, very critical of Israel. That was 23. Yeah, she's been very critical of Israel, as have many others. Many others have been strongly critical of Israel. And now she more fuel to her fire. Again, she's been saying this stuff for a while, and I've heard her talk about it, but I wasn't really paying that much attention. I've heard it because I listened to her stuff. And now looks like she seems vindicated. So here's Tucker Carlson in 2024, January of 2024. Tucker Carlson called a couple people some fucking lunatics. Who is he referring to? Lindsey Graham made a post that said, hit Iran now, hit them hard. Lindsey Graham said that in 2024. John Cornyn, I never heard of him. He said, target Tehran. He said that. Tucker Carlson reposted these posts and said, these guys are fucking lunatics. And that got 19 million views in 2024. So that was a year and a half ago, January. Candace said, and this was her post from same day. So she reposted Tucker Carlson. She said the following. It's been evident ever since last year, 2023, that this was their goal. Everything else was emotional theater. The military-industrial complex, so a lot of people think that this is really what this is about. Military-industrial complex, and that just means all the money that gets spent on military and the money just gets cycled through and we go to conflict just so we can spend money on military and people who are involved in military, money get rich, in other words. That's the military-industrial complex. It wants war with Iran and rabid neocons. We got to talk about these neocons in a second. We're going to define them. Have been sent out to convince the public that it would be a virtuous crusade. Fortunately, the public doesn't seem to be biting this time, which is driving them all mad. So what she's saying in context here is that the neocons, these are these new version of conservatives. They're not, and people call someone else a neocon. They're kind of like, it's a pejorative. They're dissing them. You're a conservative, but not really. So you neocons, these are the people, according to Candace, and many others believe this, that they just want to go to conflict, hot military conflict, because a bunch of money gets spent in the process and a bunch of money gets made in the process. And they want to convince the public that it would be a virtuous crusade to go after this country because what Candace is saying and what Donald Trump is, he's kind of sort of been alluding, is that Iran somehow is bad, and they want to convince the public that Iran is bad because you got to have public sentiment on your side. So one thing I would say in support of those protesters last week who looked silly with the No Kings protest is that getting public sentiment for or against you does play a role in how well you can get things to go over. Because in the United States, we have a system of checks and balances. So if the president decides that they want to do something, right? President wants to do something. Often they have to go through the system of checks and balances to get it done, which means you have to go through Congress often. And to go through Congress to get something done, Congress is looking at public sentiment. What are people saying about this? Are people in support of this or against this? And if people are in support, then it's easy to get people in Congress to go along with it, and then they can go do what they want to do, i.e. the executive branch, the president. But if Congress looks around That the president comes to them and says, I want to do this, and Congress looks around at public sentiment, and public sentiment says no, then Congress might go back to the president and say, sorry, Mr. President, we can't do that. Why? Because the Congress people understand that if they keep doing things that the general public is not with, then they are going to get voted out of office. So they got to think about saving their own hides and keeping their jobs. So they might not want to go with this. So what Candace is alluding to here is that the general public has not been convinced that Iran is necessarily this terrible thing that we need to go after. Again, you think back 20 years ago, a little bit more than 20 years ago, George W. Bush convinced, quote unquote, the American public that we need to go after these people who may not have anything to do with 9/11. He convinced us and Congress well enough that Congress said, okay, let's go do it, because everybody was all excited about what happened on 9/11. So let's just do whatever George W. Bush says, because we're all scared and we're all angry, want to get revenge. And we ended up in a war that lasted how long? 20 years? 15 years? Now, did we get duped by George W. Bush? Give me a yes or no in the comments. Were the American people duped by George W. Bush 20 years ago? Give me a yes or a no. Did we get duped? I believe we got duped 20 years ago by George W. Bush. And why? Because public sentiment was all riled up. Public sentiment was somebody did something to us that we know. We know somebody did something. We don't know who, but somebody did something. We were told, and most people accepted the belief that it happened from Mr. Osama. And he was from this group, this country, funded by these people, those people. George W. Bush somehow, some way created a line between what happened and that guy and this country, and we need to go after that country. And because Americans were already so emotional, and understand something about emotion, folks, when you get people emotional, then logically, it bypasses the logical centers of the brain. Emotions bypass logic. So everybody was emotional after 9/11. All Americans were, because we didn't know what the hell happened. We were scared, generally speaking. People were scared and people were angry, and we wanted retaliation. We wanted revenge. So George W. Bush told people, here's who we need to go after. And people said, okay, let's go after them. Ended up being a bunch of bullshit. And it lasted, how many years was that? How many years was that conflict? So what Candace Owens is saying here is that Donald Trump and the not Donald Trump, but the neocons, which she's now lumping him in with them. The neocons, these are according to Tucker Carlson, Lindsey Graham, Senator John Cornyn. I don't know who he is. I'm assuming he's still in the Senate. These people are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to stir up this public sentiment that Iran is this existential threat and we got to go get them. Same thing George W. Bush told us about a whole bunch of other people back 20 years ago. And he got people to agree back then. But right now, what Candace is saying is that the neocons are failing to convince Americans that this is a problem. One reason is because nothing has actually happened on American soil that gets the average American's attention. Even myself, I told you, I don't pay a ton of attention to this stuff, but I can understand the context as I look into it. But until something happens on our soil, the average American doesn't really give a damn. Donald Trump can say whatever he wants. Tucker Carlson can talk. Ted Cruz can talk. Candace Owens can talk. The average American doesn't care about this stuff because it's not hitting us front and center. 9/11 hit everybody front and center. It was in fucking New York, in the middle of damn Manhattan. Everybody knew that happened. Nobody could act like it didn't happen. That's how we had everybody's attention. What's happening right now is not going to get the average American's attention because nothing has happened to us on our soil. If it doesn't happen here, most people are not going to notice. But there's a lot of people talking about it. So Candace is saying this is the goal, that they want to create war. And this has been her whole thing. Let me get this here. Let me see if I can get some more context to this. Also, let's find out let's get a clear definition of neocon. Fishing Weekend Warrior said, I think you mean Dick Halliburton Cheney. So he's saying it was more Dick Cheney than it was George W. Bush. Fair enough. Okay, so let me get this. And what do people mean when they use this term? Is it a pejorative? And do the people who get labeled this accept the term? And if not, why not? So let's get a clear definition of neocon, because a lot of people throw this term around, but let's all get on the same page. So neocon is often used as a pejorative, often in modern discourse. So a neocon is short for a neoconservative. It basically means a new conservative. And where is it? It emerged in the mid to late 20th century. At its core, neoconservative is someone who, let's get a definition of a neoconservative. Number one, they believe in aggressive foreign policy, especially military intervention to promote democracy abroad. The problem with promoting democracy, so I guess you would call George W. Bush a neocon. Is that fair? Those of you who follow politics, is George W. Bush, or was he a neocon? Because he seemed to be, and Dick Cheney, as Fishing Weekend Warrior seemed to be saying, these guys, they just want aggressive foreign policy and they will use the military to promote any democracy abroad. The problem with promoting democracy abroad, this is what the United States tried to do. For those of you who don't know, when we got involved with Iraq years ago, we tried, or our aim, our stated goal was we were going to install democracy in that country. That did not work. That was a really, really bad idea and a bad plan that did not work. Not every country in the world wants to be America. And Americans tend to be a little bit arrogant when it comes to this. Oh, we're going to make them democratic. Can we get the 50,000 likes on TikTok, please? We failed to do that. That didn't work. And this is what it's saying. The definition I'm reading is that neocons want to promote democracy abroad. Bad idea. Generally supports U.S. global dominance. Okay. Favors free markets and capitalism. Okay. It depends on where we are. In America, yes, but I don't know where else they're talking about. Now, these people, this is why I say a pejorative to call somebody a neocon, is that these people usually started off as liberals and people on the left, but then they became more conservative, and then they shifted on certain things. And the origin actually started in the 70s and the 80s when former Democrats and intellectuals moved towards the right. So basically they got labeled, hey, you used to be over there. Don't try to come over here and act like you always been with us. So in recent decades, especially since 9/11, let's say the last 20 years, this term has been associated with war hawk policies. For those of you who don't know what war hawk means, that means people who really, really, really want to go to war. They just look for excuses to go to war. That's a war hawk. So the George W. Bush administration, a lot of people have accused them, let me put it that way, have accused them of being war hawks. In other words, they were looking for any excuse to go to war because they just wanted to go to war. It didn't matter what the reason was. Just give us any reason and we'll make it into a good reason. 9/11 created an opportunity to come up with a good reason. And that's how we ended up in conflict and sending all those soldiers overseas for, again, how many years? So, for example, Iraq, regime change efforts, which we tried and all failed. Everywhere we tried to change the regime, it didn't work. And again, George W. Bush says it right here. So now when someone calls you a neocon, what they're saying is you're supporting endless war, military interventionism, which means we got to spend our own money and we got to send our soldiers onto foreign lands. And you want to build empires and disguise it as a democracy. That's what it means when you call somebody a neocon. Endless war, military interventionism, and you want to build an empire and then call it democracy because democracy sounds good and most people are fans of democracy. So when you hear people say, well, Donald Trump's going to destroy the democracy, because people see democracy as this perfect thing that can't possibly have anything wrong with it. So it's often meant as an insult that you don't care about civilians losing their lives. That's been the biggest criticism of Israel in their current conflict. Not even this one. The current conflict is that a lot of civilians are losing their lives. That's what a lot of people are saying about them right now. That's the biggest insult about them. And they say a neocon means you're some corporate or military industrial puppet. In other words, you make a whole bunch of money if we spend a bunch of money on tanks and bullets and weapons. You somehow, some way make money off that. So you want to do more war because more war means more money for you. And you promote, quote unquote, freedom while at the same time destabilizing regions. Because when America goes into a place, we do have a lot of tanks. We got a lot of weapons. We got a lot of airplanes. We have the biggest military and the strongest military in the world. So when we go into another place to fight, we can destroy it. The United States can completely level these places militaristically. The problem is there are people who live there, everyday people like you and I who live in these places. And when the United States sends our military in there and starts fucking things up, we completely destabilize their lives. Civilians lose their lives. We are destroying everyday things. Like, what did y'all do today? This morning, you wake up, you go to the gym, you go to the grocery store, you go to get some candy from the store, you go send your kids to school. We come in and we destroy those things. Now these people still got to live there. It's not like they can just hop on a plane and come over here. We ain't letting everybody in no more. So we go and destroy these places, and these civilians still have to live there, and nobody talks about that. Well, nowadays people talk about it. But we go and destabilize these regions on that level, and we destabilize the leadership because we go in and we take the guy out, the leader. We take the leader out, and now they have no leader, and then we leave. So now what happens? Now you got this power vacuum, and what happens is you get these groups who people assumed were responsible for 9/11. These are the people who end up taking power. Why? Because there's this power vacuum, and there's nobody there saying they can't, and there's no leader holding them back. So now what? And we created that. So then the next president comes along and says, oh, well, we got to get rid of this group, this group, this group. These are bad groups that may hurt us. And some people are like, wait a minute, mofo. Y'all are the ones who created the space in which they could take power because we took out the leader and we didn't allow a new leader to come in. We destabilized it by destroying them. And now we just left it there. And now these people came into power. And now we're acting like now we got to do something great to fix it. We created the problem. Now we're supposed to solve it. Oh, now we got to go to war again, I guess. So it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. It becomes this cycle. This is what they mean when they say neocons. This is what they mean. So they go destabilize. So they come up with an excuse to go after somebody, go after them, destroy them, because we have the power to destroy them. After we destroy them, it creates a power vacuum. A new power comes into place that's a bad guy. Then we look at them and say, oh, there's some bad guys over there. I guess everybody, we got to go destroy them too. And then we just keep doing it. And then we just keep destroying everybody. Money is getting made by the people who are in the military industrial complex. And this just keeps going on and on and on. So this is why there are some people such as Candace Owens, such as Tucker Carlson, and many others. I'm just using them as examples because y'all know their names, who are saying we can't keep doing this. We can't keep doing this. And people thought Donald Trump was one of them. He was like Candace and he was like Tucker and saying, we can't keep doing this. I mean, what was Donald Trump's whole thing from the day that he came in? America first. This ain't America first. This is Iran versus Israel. What the hell that got to do with us? Donald Trump said America first. Now here he is talking about we're going to go support this country and this conflict against this country. That's the exact thing that goes against the grain of what he said he was about. That's why people like Candace and people like Tucker and many others are saying, hey, Donald Trump, what the hell are you doing? And that is a legitimate argument. That's a legitimate point. What are you doing, Donald Trump? You said that we're not doing this anymore. So who gets labeled as a neocon? Bush Cheney supporters. I think that's when it became a very popular term. Politicians like Lindsey Graham, Nikki Haley, John Bolton, they've all been called neocons. The PNAC, think tanks, the Project for the New American Century, never heard of them. And media personalities who push for U.S. involvement in places like the U country that we already involved in. And this label gets thrown around on both sides. So anybody who's anti-war or anti-globalist uses neocon to discredit things. So it's used basically as a slur. So if you call somebody a neocon, you're attacking them in some way, shape, or form. So going back to what Candace Owens said, she said, there's been evidence since last year that this is their goal. Everything else was emotional theater. This is just military industrial complex going on and on. And she reposted that yesterday. This is from January of last year. One more. Trump attacks Tucker Carlson. Whose side are you on when it comes to Iran? This is Candace Owens talking. Is it America first over, or is whatever Trump says, whatever Trump decides to say on any given day? And I give you my answer. So she did a video on YouTube yesterday, which I haven't watched yet, but I will watch. So I will be catching up on Candace. She was away for like a month or so because she gave birth to a child, but I'm going to catch up on Candace very soon. I'll catch up on Candace today, as a matter of fact. So that's the crux of this is what I just explained to you. Donald Trump said America first. This is not America first. Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, Trump voters who are listening to this, if I got this wrong, let me know. This is not America first. Especially if we end up actually getting involved in this and we start sending our young men and women over there to fight. That's number one. And number two, if Iran says, okay, y'all really want to get involved, USA, okay, we're going to hit you where it hurts and we're going to do something to you on your land just so you know that we ain't playing. If that happens, that's going to be a stain on Donald Trump. I don't give a damn about the no kings thing. I don't care about the problem people have with the immigration. I don't have a problem with it. The ICE thing with the people wearing the mask and no uniforms, I don't care about that. None of those do I see as a stain on Donald Trump's presidency. If we end up going into conflict and sending our young men and women to battle, or we get attacked on our land because we decide to get involved in this, that is a stain on Donald Trump's presidency, not necessarily because I disagree with it in and of itself, but because Donald Trump said America first. This is not America first. For that reason alone. Can't say America first and then have us getting involved in other people's shit. Especially if we got to send our young men and women to fight for it. So that's the issue. So continuing. Let me see if I got anything else Candace said that would give good context to it. I'm using her because she pays a lot of attention to this. So that's why I'm pulling her stuff for context. So this looks like Candace talking to, looks like Gad Saad. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Dude is always on Tucker Carlson. I mean, not Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan. I think that's him. I can't tell. And let me just read what she's saying here before I read this out loud. All right. So No, that's not worth reading. Not that one. But anyway, y'all can look up Candace yourself, see what she says. So here's what she says 19 hours ago. So about yesterday morning. Same people say Iran can't have a nuke because they are religious fundamentalists are the same people who hold the heretical belief that we must support Israel's nonstop campaign of taking lives, blackmail, land theft, bombing, starvation, innocent because God will bless the 1948 created nation. So she's been going hard on Israel. I think that's goes without saying. If you didn't know, now you know. And let's see. All right, that one was a repost. Okay, all right, enough of Candace. Y'all can go listen to some Candace on your own time. But I want to use that as context because she has very good context. I told you she's an investigative journalist. She knows her stuff. Not saying you have to agree with her, but she knows her stuff. So you can listen to her and come up with a disagreement, or you listen to her and get informed, whatever you prefer. But if we have to deploy military assets, it puts us in a position of defending our interests, which I guess our interest is Israel, which is, depending on who you ask, fine. Depending on who you ask, not fine. Because again, Donald Trump said America first. President Trump, you said America first. This ain't America first. This is something else. I don't know what you want to call this. This ain't America first. We are not involved in this, and we don't have to be involved in this. I've never been a fan of the United States getting involved in other people's business because we're spending our money, our tax dollars, our resources are going to other countries' conflicts. And if they can't defend themselves, then we got to step in and fight for them. The problem is they're never going to be strong enough to fight for themselves. So we got to keep fighting for them. And all we do is keep extending ourselves and having to fight for other people. Why can't they just fight for themselves? And if you lose, you lose. Now, like I said in the Rocky movie, if he dies, he dies. But this military posturing, again, this could lead to provocation, and we can provoke Iran. We can miscalculate and be wrong, or it could lead to unintended war. But according to the people who call others neocons, this is not unintended war. This is intended. This is on purpose. A lot of people think this is on purpose. How many of you think, yes or no, that the United States is actually trying to get involved in war on purpose? Put a yes or no if you think the United States, just the whole United States, I'm talking about the entire DC, not just Trump, but the entire DC. Do you think we are trying to get into war on purpose, yes or no? So I'm getting a lot of yeses and nos. I'm getting some back and forth here. So some say no, some say yes. And it depends. It depends on how much you believe Donald Trump. Do you believe what Trump's posturing is? He wants to go to war. Do you believe his posturing is he's just playing a negotiation game? What I think right now, as of today, from what I've heard from Donald Trump, what I've seen from him, I think he's playing a negotiation game, but he's not afraid to go to war. So I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think any American president is afraid to go to war simply because we got the biggest gun. So why would we be afraid? Especially because every time the United States gets into conflict, the war is in somebody else's land. So it's not like our land is getting destroyed. It's not like our schools and hospitals are getting bombed. It's not like our civilians are losing their lives. That's them. So we go to war, we're going to your land and we're going to destroy your land. Your civilians are going to die. Your people are going to lose their lives. Our land is perfectly fine. All right, nothing's happening in Memphis. Nothing's happening in Detroit. Nothing's happening in Carlsbad, California. Nothing's happening in Seattle. Nothing's happening in Minneapolis. Nothing's happening in Tallahassee. Our cities are not getting destroyed. It's those cities getting destroyed. So I completely understand why an American government is not concerned. Well, concerned is not the right word. Not worried about going to war because, again, it ain't our land is getting beat up. It's your land getting beat up. Now, we losing our lives, though, and we got to spend a whole lot of money, and this can look bad on us politically. But, I mean, look on the bright side. At least we're not seeing our own country getting destroyed. So this strategic ambiguity and the U.S. involvement lets Israel act while keeping direct risk off America. So basically what we're doing is backing Israel and letting them do what they want to do. But these vague boundaries can lead to U.S. entanglement or misinterpreted support. But I don't think this is misinterpreted. I think this is pretty clear. I think it's pretty clear that we're supporting one side in this, and it depends on how much you fear the other side. That's really what it comes down to. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you all as American citizens with Iran as a threat to Americans? Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being like they could destroy us, and a 1 being they're nothing. I don't even notice them. Where do y'all put 1 to 10? As an American citizen, how much of a threat do you think Iran is to us? Hertz Donut says a lot of people don't know that obtaining the nuke is against their policy due to religious reasons. Part of the reason they maintain the threshold. Yeah, so now the argument is, do they have one? Do they not have one? That's been the big argument right now. Neocons. So I'm seeing a lot of you putting low numbers. I saw a couple tens. I see some numbers over 5. I see some 5, 6s, 7s. I see a lot of 1s and 4s. So a lot of you don't think Iran's much of a threat. Neocons claim to be against communism, but the original neocons were from the Soviet. Okay, you're going deeper than I can go here. Elon Musk said Trump was in the E-files that would track with Trump's unwillingness to stop Israel. Okay, interesting connection that you drew there. Hertz donut. So one last point is that strong U.S. positioning under Trump may recalibrate expectations of American strength. I think Donald Trump is trying to do that. I think we can agree to that. But this perceived unpredictability in U.S. policy can alienate allies and destabilize diplomacy. This is what people have been saying about Trump from the very beginning, is that when he does these things that seem unpredictable and it seems he's unhinged and it seems he's just talking crazy, again, this is all theater by Donald Trump. He does this very well. He knows how to play the negotiation game. This is what he loves to do. He wrote it in his own book. His favorite thing to do is to make deals. And one of the ways that he makes deals is by threatening and posturing and using brinksmanship. And right now, that's what he's doing. And it creates this feeling of you can't predict what the United States is going to do. And if you're another country that believes the United States can topple your country and they are seeming unpredictable, you're not quite sure what they're going to do, you are more likely to appease the United States and do what the United States says because you don't want to take the risk of them actually doing something that you don't want them to do because you know you can't win that fight. That's what Donald Trump is doing right now. That's what I would say in his defense. In his defense, that's what I think he's doing. Now, if I end up being wrong, then we'll talk about it again and I'll say, well, I was wrong about that. But right now, that's what I think he's doing because he's done it so many times in the past. We will see. He did it with the tariffs. He's done it with other things. And we'll see what he ends up doing in this situation. But let's get into the comments here. And let's see where we're at on this whole conversation of the Iran-Israel situation. I didn't think this conversation was actually going to go this deep, but it has. And as I told you, I'm going to listen to Candace Owens here today to get some more context on the situation with the caveat that it's clear what side Candace is on. So I might want to hear, I may see if I can find some people who are on the other side of the conversation, but I am going to listen to what she has to say just to understand, see if I can understand a little bit more about it. So D. Aberdeen, again, I think he may just be posing right now, but we'll see. Tay Gunner said, imagine if we had Sleepy Joe in this situation. Well, if we had Joe in this situation, his advisors will be basically making the decisions. Tay said, would I vote for Candace Owens in 2028? Would I vote for her as a general point, not considering her competition? Yes, I would. But at the same time, I'm not really a fan of the concept of a woman being president. And I don't even think Candace would. Would she run? I don't know if Candace would even run. Candace as vice president, I'd be very okay with it. Candace as president, not really. I'm not really a big fan of putting women in position of leadership with men standing behind them. I'm just generally not a fan of that. I guess that makes me a misogynist. I'll take the title. But a man's role is to lead, the woman's role to support. So if she was the VP, I'd be happy with that. But as full president, no. Let me make sure I get the captcha over on TikTok. All right, TikTok, let's do it. We got 46 minutes. We have 50,000 likes. Great. Can we get to 100K today? This is a 100K day, folks. So let's get to 60,000 likes on TikTok. 60,000 likes, please. Lele said, please don't act surprised. 75 million people told you out loud. Told me what? There's a lot of comments coming in here today, so I'm definitely not getting all these comments. So I'm reading them as best I can, folks. But there's a lot of them. Zoriel Light, please don't spam my comments with the same comment 10 times in a row. Don't do that. We'll have to kick you out if you do that. One Trans Am said we get attacked here as a stain on Trump. Yes, because he's the one who got us involved in the conflict. He is provoking the conflict. Yes, that would be a stain on Trump. Yes. We get attacked here in America. That goes on his track record because he's the president. Same way that when 9/11 happened, that went on George W. Bush's track record. Just because it happened under you, because you're the leader, you get the blame for that happening. That's how it works. That's how blame works. Furia said, we will not be putting boots on the ground in Iran. We may take care of the facility. That's it. I hope you're right. Chakota said, when things and circumstances change, there's no room to alter the strategy. Well, again, we don't know exactly what the strategy is. We don't know. We know what Donald Trump is thinking and what he's doing on the inside, but all we know is what gets said on the news, which is not often the actual situation. this is all theater for the everyday person. By the time we find out about it, there's other things that are already happening that we don't know about. Jason said, we should never send our troops into this. Israel's big enough to let them handle it. Well, yeah, exactly. That's what a lot of people are saying. So many are saying this is not going to happen. And Tony said he is also the no new wars guy. Exactly. Again, this is why people are criticizing the way that he's talking, but at the same time, he talks like this all the time and doesn't actually follow through because he doesn't need to. So that's the whole issue. Trans Am said either we fight there or let it come here. Well, according to the votes, a lot of people don't think it's much of a threat that they could do anything. Tony said we subsidize Israel healthcare and propping up the government by continued funding. Yeah, which is why Trump seems to be a fan. So Furia, I don't get to the comments till after I get through my content. I don't read the comments while I'm talking. Strategic said, do we ignore Iran's threats? It depends on how much you believe their threats. And again, the threats by another country is a great reason, those people to get called neocons, is a great excuse that they use, a great pretext that they use to say we got to go attack them because they keep threatening us. That's the conflict in politics, is that this other country is making a threat, or we think they're making a threat. So that convinces the Americans that they're going to do something. So then we convince the citizens, hey, we got to go do something because they're threatening us. And the citizens say, yeah, go do something. Then we go do something. And then other people are saying, well, they were never going to do anything. Why are we doing this? And it becomes this whole back and forth conflict. That's the reason why there's conflict amongst the citizens of America, because different people have different views on what's happening. Matt said the military industrial complex needs to eat. Yeah, so they like conflict because money gets made. Rebel says no is about the nuke. So nobody can agree. All right. Nobody can agree on whether or not they got one or not. That's still what we're trying to figure out. Igu says, I think it's yes. I think the prisoners that were originally to go for the immigrants are going to be. Jeff Beat says, I agree with you. Thank you. We're at 57,000 likes. Can we get to 60,000, please? Planet said, we are literally the biggest threat to the whole universe. That I agree with. We are the biggest threat, at least the known universe. Yes. Renee said, nobody wants our smoke. Yeah, well, a lot of Americans don't want us to be giving anybody smoke. That's the whole point, is that we are trying to stay out of shit that ain't our business. Tay Gunner says, let's say we let them fight alone and they lose. Wouldn't that be bad for Trump? Yes, we wouldn't let that happen. That's the whole thing, Tay, is that I don't think America would allow Israel to lose by itself. I don't think that would happen. Which is why Trump is saying what he's saying. We are on the same team as Israel. And that's the issue. Igu said, pretty sure we're trying to do the same thing we did to, I don't know if we're going to go that far. Tristan said, we don't need to lose any more young soldiers. Yes, hopefully we don't lose anybody. That's the whole point. Trans Am said, we got the baddest military in the world. Yes, we do. But that also, if we use that military, some of our people still pass away. Even though we win, we still lose a whole lot of lives in the process of winning. So every war America has won, we still lost soldiers. Jose said, what about 9/11? What about it? I mentioned it earlier. Planet said, Trump does not even have the actual control. The war machine is pulling the strings. He's just a puppet. And that's what people have been saying about every president for the last 25 years. And you might be right. You might be right. Big Mick said, Trump wants to be a wartime president so badly he will do anything. I don't know about that. I mean, he's been very clear that he didn't want to start anything. And his first administration didn't start anything. So we have to look at his track record. Leo said, what happens when we start getting beat up? I don't think any of us want to know what happens when that happens. America will cease to be America. Strategic Brand said, Dre, do we have a responsibility to prevent nukes if we are a world power? That's an interesting question. A question that I'm not even going to go into right now. It's an interesting question. It's a good question. Do we have a responsibility? See, that puts us on this plane of we need to oversee what everybody else in the world is doing. I don't like that idea. And Donald Trump said America first. So that's my answer off the top to that question. Donald Trump said America first. So Max said, I bet there's no weapon of mass destruction. So see, that's the whole thing. Do they have it or do they not? That's the question. All right, how many of y'all think they have it? How many of you think they don't? Do you think Iran has a weapon of mass destruction? Yes or no? Gypsy says, not going to be just Iran. Yeah, you're right. It's not. It's not. it would be a whole bunch of, if we get involved in that, other countries are going to jump in. There's going to be this big royal rumble. Minette said, heard many opinions that Iran does not have it, and then a bunch of people saying that they do have it. So that's really what this comes down to. Do they have it or do they not? Because if they have it, they can do a lot of damage. If they don't have it, then they're not much of a threat. Audrey said, am I independent? Yes, I have no political affiliation, if that's what you're asking. Unbothered said, you're serious? What happens with the tariff? What happened with the tariffs? He rolled them back. Yes, that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about, Unbothered. Is that he put them out there and put all these announcements out there about what he was going to do with the tariffs. And then it got everybody's attention and everybody got all excited and talked about it for days. And then he pulled them back. The whole point was to get everybody's attention and to get them to do kind of what he wanted them to do, which is negotiate. The negotiations we don't hear about on the news. So all we hear about is the headline. That's what he does. That's called brinksmanship. He does it all the time. So we're on the same page here. Tony said, do you think Trump is losing cognitive decline like Biden? I don't think so. Did you hear Joe Biden in the last 2 years of his presidency? Where do you see that in Trump? Trump's not anywhere close to that. Hope said women are too emotional. Yeah, that's why I said it'd be good for Candace as VP. Candace is VP, I'll be happy with. Candace says, you know what Candace would be great at is at the as the press secretary, but that would be kind of underselling her skills. Press secretary is kind of beneath her level. VP might be pretty good. Archer said, do you play ball in your free time? No, I do not play ball. These days I run or I'll be in the boxing gym. I don't play ball anymore. Basketball beats up your legs in a way. There's a reason why players stop playing. And if you keep playing, you end up tearing your Achilles or your knees or something like that. Or you see these old guys with knee braces on that can barely run. Basketball is for younger ages. Once you get to a certain age, if you played enough, basketball is over. Nicola said, what do you think about the candidates in the Democratic Party for next election? Like who? I think right now Newsom is the number one guy. I think he's the number one person they got right now. I don't think he's that strong, but he is the governor of California and it's a big state. So, but other than that, I ain't really feeling anybody they got. Who else they got? Kathy said, you just aerated, I think you meant alienated, you're a woman audience by saying that a woman shouldn't be president. Kathy, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of women who agree with that. I think there's a lot of women in this audience who agree that they rather a man be in charge. What I alienated, Kathy, was my feminist audience. The feminists are only ones who are offended by me saying a woman shouldn't be in charge, but not just women, period. Gypsy said he's a warmonger that says he's about peace. He's only in it for the money as the administration. Okay, there's an argument for that right now, given the current situation. Leo said, why does everyone feel no one will operate on American soil? It's not that we don't feel it won't happen. It's that it doesn't happen, it hasn't happened, and we have an ocean on both sides of our land, which is why it's harder to attack us. If you try to attack America, we can see you coming because you got to cross one of those oceans. Or you got to come through, even if you came through Mexico or Canada, we can see you coming because you got to come over here. And they tend to be pretty cool with us. So it's harder to attack America just because of our strategic geographical location. It's much easier to attack those countries over there because they're all next to each other. All you got to do is cross the land. So we are strategically placed where we have an advantage over other countries when it comes to conflict. King Nut said, we get it. You voted for Biden. Yeah, right. Someone said, Reggie said, this guy is single mom hunting. Me? What the hell does that mean? Shane No said, what's so special about Israel? I didn't say anything special. I said, well, they're the topic today. So what you want me to do? Not talk about it? Reggie said, talking entrepreneurship to pick up single moms. What the hell does entrepreneurship have to do with single moms, Reggie? You had to make the logical connection between those two things. I don't understand what you even mean. Danny said, who are you and what do you do for a living? Click the link in my bio. You can learn more about me. But my name is Dre Baldwin. I run a company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do, if I had to keep it simple, is we help ambitious entrepreneurs make money. We help them get seen, get known, get their stuff out to the people who need it, and of course, make sales, which means making money. Ray Vaz said Trump is playing chess. Yes, this is an argument that I made. There are different ways of looking at what Trump is doing. Is he playing chess strategically? Is he playing brinksmanship? Or is he serious? I think he's playing the game. Why do I think that? It's because this is what he's done so many times already. I think this is just him playing the game that he always plays and getting everybody excited because they're reacting to what he's saying. But he's not actually going to go that far because I don't think he needs to. Gypsy said, why do I believe what he says? Well, I believe some of the things he says, and I believe what he's doing is playing the game. So he says what he needs to say to get people riled up, excited, and reactive because he is controlling the situation. So it's not necessarily believing everything he says at face value. I believe what he says is what he is meaning, but at the same time, he's using it for a reason. So there's a strategy behind what he says. So it's kind of like acting in a way. Renee said, DT is posturing and making deals. He doesn't want war. Yeah, that's what I think he's doing now until it's proven otherwise. That's what I believe. Jackie said, Trump is a special kind of puppet. Well, people calling Trump a puppet as a way of pejoratively attacking him. I get it. So when I asked, do y'all think they have a weapon? I'm getting about 60% yeses and 40% no. And Gemini said, just like Iraq, that they don't have it. They never replaced the original people who had control of the codes. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Gypsy says it's going to be a big rumble and he's going to come home. We'll see. She Speaks says, I believe they have access to countries who do have a weapon. Okay, that's another angle of it. Beth said, had they come out saying they don't have it? I don't know. Somebody answer that question. Has Iran actually come out and said we don't have the weapon? I don't know if they have. I don't know if they've actually answered the question. Have they actually been asked the question also? Random Rod says, so whatever Trump says is right, peace. So the straw man of the day by Random Rod. Random Rod, congratulations on getting the straw man of the day. I did not say that whatever Trump says is right. Never. I didn't say anything that even sounds like that. So straw man is when someone rephrases something that they think I said into something that I didn't say. Then they either attack it or they ridicule it or they pose it as a question. And Random Rod did a couple of those at the same time. That's known as a straw man argument. People do it all the time. So once you notice the straw man, then you'll be able to point it out when people use it on you. Susan said, no, they don't, but I know who. The United States does. Yes, the United States does have WMDs. That is true. Christina said, Tulsi Gabbard said, years away in March. Okay. Gypsy said, he's not negotiating. No one's talking to him. Yeah, he's negotiating because he's making it known where he stands. Every time Donald Trump says something publicly, all the leaders in all the other countries of the world know what he said. Guarantee you that they're listening. Just because they're not talking back doesn't mean they didn't hear what he said. Everybody hears what Donald Trump says when he speaks because he's the leader of the strongest country in the world. So they all hear him. He's negotiating even if they're not saying anything back because he's letting them know where he stands and what he might do. That's part of the negotiation. B&D Instacart said, if you agree with anything with Trump, you are in cognitive decline. Is that the best you got? That's guilt by association fallacy, amongst other things. Country Girl said, Candace isn't in a good place with a lot of people right now. Well, again, that's why I complimented her. She doesn't really need to be. She has an independent platform. And when you're a journalist and you're doing real journalism, there's a bunch of people not going to like you. That's the whole point of journalism. When you do journalism, there should never be one side that always likes everything that you say. If everybody always likes everything that you say, you're not doing journalism. When you're doing journalism, there's going to come a point where you're going to say something that this side disagrees with or that side disagrees with. If everything you say, there's one side who always is happy with what you said, you're not doing journalism. What you're doing is called public relations. And a lot of people who call themselves journalists are actually doing public relations. They're not doing journalism. Journalism will always piss off somebody on some side of something if you do it long enough. Candace has pissed off everybody at a different point. That's how you know she's a real journalist. Ironically enough. A lot of people don't know what journalism looks or sounds like, so they don't understand this. And most people don't want to do journalism these days because a lot of people are afraid of getting attacked by the wrong people. They don't want to piss the wrong people off, so they don't say what actually needs to be said because journalism is about finding out the truth. Whatever the truth may be, let's find out what the truth is. And when you get to the truth will make everybody uncomfortable on some level because there is no perfect person. There's no perfect country. There's no perfect situation. So the truth will make everybody uncomfortable on some level. And when someone is actually trying to get to the truth, they will piss off everybody at some point. So Candace has pissed off everybody. That's how you know she's doing journalism. So anybody calling themselves a journalist who, again, the left or the right or whoever is always happy with what they say, they're not journalists. Tucker Carlson, journalist. Megyn Kelly, journalist. Candace Owens, journalists. And there ain't too many of them. There's only a handful of them left. Emily said, I'm a woman. I wouldn't want a woman as president. Yeah, see, there you go. See, it wasn't the women that got alienated. It's the feminists who got alienated. I don't mind alienating feminists. I'm not a fan of feminism. Gypsy said, feminists or women who fought for rights that we all have now. I'm not sure what you're saying. Women who fought for rights not the same as feminists. Those are two different things. Smiley said, I want the best person to be in charge. And the best person would be a man. Why? Because men are designed to lead. Women are designed to support the man. That's the way it works. Jason said, as an independent, how do you feel about his presidency so far? I feel that, how do I feel about his presidency so far? Generally, just to keep it real, I really don't care, honestly, what the president does. And I've made this very clear in a lot of live streams that I've done. If this is your first time hearing me, I really don't put that much stake in what the president does generally, because number one, if you really care about politics, the most important elections are the ones that happen in your state and at your local level. They affect your everyday life a lot more than the president. And number two, even with that said, it's more important that you take care of your own business, each of you as an individual citizen, than it matters what the president is doing at all, or anybody, even the mayor, the city council, the governor. If you take care of your own business, you can put yourself above the fray of anything that a politician does. And generally, that's what I would suggest to everybody. I talk about Trump and I talk about the president and I talk about politics. Why? Because it gets a whole bunch of attention. Right now, it's 257 people in here because I'm talking about a current political situation. But generally, I don't put that much stake in what any of these people do. I'd rather put stake in what I do so that no matter what they do, I'm still in a good position. But I'm not dependent on the government, local or national government, to do anything for me. But I will use them for content. I'm using them right now for content. Mustang Man said, Newsom has ruined California. We don't need him. No Uber in that state. There's no Uber in California? I didn't know that. But he's the strongest candidate right now for the Democrats. So if you're in California, so I see a lot of Californians don't like Newsom. So if you're in California, you don't like Newsom, well, how the hell is he going to win the election if he can't even, his own state don't even like him? So the Democrats have a problem. And Newsom's the strongest candidate Democrats have right now, and a lot of Californians don't like him, so there's trouble. There's some trouble right there. Ken said, it's on your shelf behind you. What's on my shelf? What are you referring to? Good morning, DJ Julio. Gypsy said, you had too much faith in this president. I got faith in every president because I live in America, so I want any president to do well. Any president I want to do well. So I want Trump to do well. I wanted Biden to do well. I wanted, before that, Trump, before that, Obama, before that, before that, Clinton. I want the president to do well because I live in America. So I would never want the president to fail, even if I don't like the president or I don't like what they're doing. If Kamala had won, I would want Kamala to do well. Why? Because I live here. So I support whoever the president is. I would never go against the president just because I don't like them. Now, I can criticize the president if I don't like something that they did, but I still want them to succeed because I got to live here. So as long as I'm living here, I want the president to do well. Lion said they're trying to push this war to make stock moves off the war. Yeah, a lot of people believe that, the neocons. Jason said, do you think we made the right choice? What, you mean as far as Trump? Well, what do you mean by right choice? Right choice is a matter of opinion. We made the choice that we made, which is majority rules, and by vote, Donald Trump won. So it's not about the right choice. We just made a choice, if that's what you're asking. The Glow Man said the right and left are both controlled. A lot of people believe that. I get it. Country Girl said, why would they do that? That's not how you play the game. Which game are you talking? Andrew said they do not have the capability. So a lot of you think they don't have a weapon, and some of you think they do have a weapon. So I think this is really what this comes down to. Brenda Cowgirl said the straw man couldn't get it right. Jace B said Trump will show you why he's doing all this in 2 years. Well, you better hope he keeps control of the Congress. See, if he loses control of Congress, he won't be able to do shit. So we'll see. Strategic Brand said the Constitution gives Congress the sole authority to declare war. Yes, that's right. Which means you got to get the people behind it. Because if the people are not behind it, Congress is not going to go along with doing it because they will get voted out of their office and out of their jobs if they do something that the general public doesn't want. So you got to get the general public engaged. Right now, the general public is not engaged in this. Y'all are engaged, but we all who are talking here are a very small percentage of the general public. The everyday person does not know anything about this and doesn't care because it's not affecting us. 9/11 got everybody's attention because it happened on our land. Nothing's happened on our land yet, so the average person doesn't care. That's the issue right now to get Congress engaged, is that they have no reason to engage. Robin said, I hope we don't get tricked into fighting for our actual enemy. Well, right now, we're not. Nothing's going to happen unless something happens on our soil. It would have to be something stronger than what's happening right now. Gypsy said, I love independent journalism. That's all we got right now. Very true. All journalism is independent these days. So actually, even calling something independent journalism is redundant because in order to be a journalist, you must be independent. Tay Gunner said Tucker Carlson and Candace in 2028. Yeah, I mean, it sounds good, but we need somebody with a strong, just a strong position. Tucker Carlson is not a political. He's not a presidential type. I like Tucker Carlson. He's not the presidential type. Candace is a good VP. Candace is a bulldog, but as a VP, she'd be great. And we need a strong president in front of her. If it had been Trump and Candace, that'd been great. The problem is Candace is a little bit too independent. She couldn't be the VP behind Trump because she'll come out and call you out on your nonsense. That's why she probably wouldn't be VP, actually. Because as soon as she sees the political game, she's going to call it out. And you can't be arguing with the president when you're the vice president. It kind of doesn't work. Among Lama said, why doesn't he refrain? You said refrain, but I think you mean refrain from making tweets again, because that's the way he communicates. He communicates to the rest of the world. Every time Donald Trump posts a tweet, every leader in the rest of the world knows what he said. They all are paying attention. So there's a way of him letting you know where he stands. User said, not many indie journalists anymore. Yeah, because you can't make money being an independent journalist. That's why there's not so many of them. Again, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens. You got the Young Turks people. They're okay. They're okay. That guy, what's his name? Sink. He says some things that didn't make any sense to me. Yeah, but I've heard the other chick, Anna. I've heard her a couple of times. She's pretty good. And Sink, he says some things that I'm like, dude, what are you doing? That's not independent thinking, what you're talking about there. You're leaning way too hard. But Megyn, Kelly, Megyn, Candace, Tucker. Those are the three that I like the best as far as independent journalists these so far today. If there's somebody else I'm missing, please say their names. I like Anna from the Young Turks. Sink has been I don't know about him. Alex Jones, I mess with. I don't listen to him all the time, but I mess with Alex Jones. Alex goes a little bit deep. Alex goes into some very deep waters sometimes, but turns out he's been right about a whole bunch of things. Ruber Crossing is asking me to define feminism, but we call that a Socratic trap for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're looking for a definition. You're looking for something for me to say in that definition that you can attack, number one. Number two, feminism is not the topic here today. So I'm not going to go into that rabbit hole. And number three, if you want to hear me talk about feminism, let's go on our good old YouTube, because I have a ton of content in which I have talked about feminism. I'm not dodging the subject. I'm just not talking about it here today because it's not the topic. I talked about feminism, number one, number two, number three, number four. I got at least 4 videos. Here's another one, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8. I got at least 8 videos on YouTube where I've talked about feminism. Number 9, I just found another one. Number 10, another one. All right, that's just off the top of my head. So I got at least 10 videos on YouTube where I talked about feminism. So just look up my name. My name is Dre, D-R-E. My last name is Baldwin, B-A-L-D-W-I-N, and then just type in the word feminism, and you can watch to your heart's content. I talk about feminism a lot, so I'm not dodging the topic. I'm just not talking about it here today. So Gypsy said, California is like the 3rd or 4th largest economy in the world. Yeah, and Sarah said, I'm in California and I love Newsom. Okay. Can he win? I think he can win the nomination. Now, can he win the election is a different story. I don't know about that. Marky said there is Uber in Sacramento. Yeah, somebody said no Uber, so that's why I was asking. What do you mean no Uber? Riva Star said Trump is trying to start a war. Check out ABC News. Well, some people say he is. I don't need to see ABC News to know that. Right now we don't know. That's it. All of us everyday citizens. We don't really know what they're actually doing. This is Riva Star said look at people's actions, not words. Well, we can look at both in context. We look at the actions, then we look at the words that are said, and then say, how do these two connect? And that gives us better context for the next time something happens. Chris said, a lot of people do not like Trump, and he still won. Newsom has no issue. Yeah, Newsom has an issue. He's not Trump. He doesn't have the pull that Donald Trump has. A lot of people don't like Trump, but a lot of people do like Trump. Now, Gavin Newsom, the polarity of Gavin Newsom is not nearly as strong as Donald Trump. Donald Trump had a lot of people who really don't like him, but he had a lot of people who really, really do like him. That's why he is who he is. Gavin Newsom's polls are not nearly as there's not nearly as big of a gap between like and don't like. His are much closer like this. And to win an election, you got to get a lot of people really excited about you. Look at Donald Trump twice. Look at Barack Obama. Joe Biden, what he got people excited about was going against Donald Trump. And that worked one time. Hillary tried it. It failed. Kamala tried it. It failed. Joe Biden was able to make it happen, allegedly. Nobody else has been able to. Everybody else, you got to get a bunch of people really excited about you to win an election. Gavin Newsom is not on Trump's level for that. So we can't compare Trump to Newsom in that sense. That's an unfair comparison. Gypsy asked me about irregularities in election. That's a rabbit hole I'm not going down here today. TJ said, no way he keeps Congress. No way. We'll see. We will see. Among Lama said, I think Republicans will lose the House but retain the Senate. But that still gives them a chance to get something done. But if they lose both sides, then Trump will get nothing done. Cure Fan said, do you think we'll have Congress in 2 years? I think it's too early right now. I think if you ask me this question, it's 2025 now. So basically a year from now, when they start ramping up the elections for the midterms, then we'll have a better idea. But right now it's too early. You got to remember, everyday voters tend to not have long memories. They tend to think of things like moment by moment. George said, well, you look at Iraq for the WMDs, there's your answer. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's a good example. And that is the last time we were told this. So, again, we haven't done anything yet. So that's why, again, we can't put Trump right in the same category as George W. Bush, because George W. made us go do something. We didn't do anything yet. Michelle said, not Tucker. I like him, but he's goofy. I like Tucker, too. Tucker's he's not a presidential type of person. He's a good journalist. He's good in his lane. I wouldn't want him in politics. He's not that type of person. Gypsy said, what about O'Keefe? James O'Keefe? What about him? Among Lama says she's all about clickbait. Who are you talking about? Let's see. Steven said the president can deploy Marines without Congress. Okay. I hope we don't send anybody. For a conflict is not ours. Brenda Cowgirl said, I just found you today. You're quite intelligent one. I love your Obama voice inflection. Do I sound like Obama? I'm not trying to. But okay, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. Can we get the 75,000 likes, folks? Y'all done got lazy on the likes. Get my likes up. Kevin Samuels' voice. Get my likes up. I'm not answering any more questions until we get to 80,000 likes. All right, I'm on my Kevin Samuels now. Get my likes up, folks. We're at 73,000 likes. We need to get to 80,000 likes before I answer any more questions. Get my likes up. Kevin Samuels mode. I'm on Kevin Samuels mode. Those who don't know who Kevin Samuels is, he's this black guy who passed away like 3 years ago. He used to do live streams talking about relationships, but he would look at the lives. He would look at the likes on his live. And if he didn't like how many likes he had, he would stop talking. He would play some intro music or some, what do you call it? Intermission music. And he wouldn't talk anymore until he got more likes. So I'm doing a Kevin Samuels here. Get the likes up. We need 80,000 likes before I keep talking, folks. 80,000 likes. We're at 76. Tap the screen to like the live. Get my likes up, folks. Kevin Samuels. I got to come up with some music. Somebody got to send me some royalty-free music that I can use when we do these little intermissions so that people can get the likes up. Because he used to have a little song. He would play the song. The song would last about 90 seconds. And then that 90 seconds, people would get the likes up, and then he would keep talking. But right now, I don't have a song. So we need a song. So anybody got some royalty-free music? I could probably find some online, but I'm not going to do it right now, that we can use to get the likes up song. We're at 79,000. We need less than 1,000. We'll be at 80,000. I'll keep going with the questions. Ingrid said, what about Patrick Bet-David? What about him? Among Lama said, you named a bunch of actually insane people. McLean said Glenn Greenwald. Well, Glenn Greenwald was in a good space until that video came out a couple weeks ago. So he got to stay in his lane. He got to stay where he's at. He can't get into politics. Not after that. You can't be in politics with that out there on your name. Even if he didn't do anything, quote unquote, illegal. You can't have that on your name with his personality and do it. Now, Trump could get away with it. He couldn't. Well, Trump can go away with that, but the things Trump has on his, he has a different personality. So the personalities matter a lot. All right, we're at 80,000 likes. Thank you, folks. We need to get to 100K here, please. Riva Star said, I'm out. You're so egocentric. Well, I am egocentric. And if that causes you to leave, well, that's your problem. Random said, how about Rachel Maddow? Have some self-respect, bro. What about Rachel Maddow? What about her? Kathy said, you brought it up with saying a man shouldn't be president and needs to support a man. A woman needs support. A woman shouldn't be president and needs to support a man. Well, it's not exactly what I said. What I said, Kathy, was that man is designed to lead and woman was designed to be in support of a man. I do believe that. Yes, I did bring it up by saying that. It doesn't mean I got to give a whole conversation about it just because you have a follow-up question. I can make a single isolated statement on a certain subject and say I'm not talking about it anymore and refer you to other material if I so choose, which is what I did. So I brought it up and then I dropped it. I didn't say a woman needs to support a man. I said a woman's natural role is in support of a man. She doesn't need to. She can be by herself if she wants to. And a man can support a woman if he wants to. That's not the natural role of man and woman. So now I'll talk about it some more. Among Lama says, so you look up to Candace Owens because you want to also be clickbait. Am I getting warm? So here's Straw Man of the Day number 2 by Among Lama. She said, so you usually find a straw man. One of the tells for straw man, someone starts a comment with so you look up to Candace Owens. Did I ever say I look up to Candace Owens? I don't look up to anybody. You look up to Candace Owens because you also want to be clickbait. So she's saying Candace Owens is clickbait, which I don't know why you're saying that to me as if I need to address it. Am I getting warm? No, you're getting cold, and you're also getting the Straw Man of the Day award number 2. So congratulations to you for the Straw Man of the Day. And she said, oh, you're saying Candace Owens is clickbait? Well, you can't say somebody's clickbait when they're getting 1 million views per video within 24 hours. Like, you can't clickbait somebody to 1 million views and do it over and over and over again. Now, I could put out a clickbait video and maybe get 1 million views once, but then after people sees it was clickbait, they're not gonna click on the next one. She gets 1 million over and over again. That's substance. You can't call that clickbait just because you disagree with it. Just say you disagree. It's fine to just say you disagree with something. That's mature to say. I could disagree with somebody and still recognize that they have an active audience that wants to hear what they have to say. The View, I don't like what they say on The View, but I can't say that they are failing because they got a bunch of people that like them and listen to them every day. I don't like The View, but I can't just say that they're clickbait. No, they aren't clickbait. They are giving what their audience wants. They're giving it to them, and they have an active audience because of it. And that's fair enough. I don't have to like them to give them credit. And that's a problem. A lot of you adults have this issue that when you don't like somebody, you can't even give them credit for anything. That's childish. All right, we're too old for that. Let's see. Among Lama said, I know there's 30 refueling aircraft near Iran. Okay. Your dog said Uber is founded in HQ in Cali. Yeah, well, I don't know why somebody left that comment that said, Random said, you lost me with Tucker Carlson. Why? What's your problem with Tucker Carlson? Do you disagree with his his existence in doing journalism? I'm not saying you have to agree with everything he says. I don't agree with everything he says, but I believe he's doing a good job of journalism and trying to find the truth. Doesn't mean you're always going to be right, and doesn't mean everybody's always going to agree. But are you trying to find the truth? That's my question when we talk about someone being a journalist. Not that you like everything that they say. That's impossible. When someone's doing actual journalism, it's guaranteed you're going to hear them say something that you don't like. That's what makes it journalism. That's the part y'all need to understand. Journalism does not mean you like or agree with everything you hear. And these days, we created such a soft society. As soon as people hear something that they don't like, they leave comments like some people have left comments in here like, oh, you said that, so I'm leaving. Like, how old are you? Are you 12 years old? So you like everything I said for 40 minutes, and I say something you don't like for 2 minutes, and then you say, well, I'm leaving. I'm never coming back. Again, are you 12 years old? No, that's childish. Journalism, you're going to hear something that you don't like. The maturity is in continuing to listen to it anyway. Because if you walk away every time you hear something that you don't like, how are you ever going to learn, get better, grow, advance, etc.? You can't. Appreciate you, Elaine. Ingrid, my question is, so her question is, how do you feel about Patrick Bet-David? So I was asking before, what about him? I've heard a couple of his podcast shows. I think he's a good he's what I call him good. If 100 is a great interviewer, I think if Joe Rogan's like I put him near the top of interviewers. Oprah Winfrey was near the top when she was in her prime, back before she picked the political side. I would put Patrick Bet David. He's kind of like he's like a 78, 79. He's not that great. He has a strong platform, so he's able to get a lot of people to come on his show, which is good. So there's value in that. As far as his interviewing skills, I don't think he's that good. He's about a 79. He's not bad. I mean, he ain't amazing. That's how I feel about Patrick Bet David. He's not bad, but he's not amazing. He's not the best interviewer, but he has an audience. So I give him credit. He has an audience. He has people who actively listen to him, and he has guests that he can get on his show who other people cannot get those guests to go on their shows. So that's value that he brings to the marketplace. There are certain people who will go on Patrick Bet David, but they won't go on other people's platforms. So if you want to hear those people, you got to listen to Patrick Bet David. So I give him credit for that, even though at the same time, I don't think he's that good. As far as an interviewer, all the stuff that he does, I don't know that much about it. I read his book. He had a book. What was the name of his book? I think it was called Your Next 5 Moves. I read so many books, I forget. I think it's called Your Next 5 Moves. Is that the name of Patrick Bet David's book? I read that book. It wasn't bad. O'Keefe. Yeah, I think it's James O'Keefe. I think it's his name. I think his name is James. Let's see. Thank you for tapping the screen, Brenda. You're cleaning horse stalls. Shout out to people cleaning horse stalls. Believe it or not, I got a lot of equestrians in my audience. I get people who ride horseback, like competitive horseback, who are in my audience. I've gotten emails from them over the years. So shout out to the people on the farms. Shout out to the people with cows and horses. I'm a city guy. I'm a concrete jungle type of guy. But shout out to the people on the farms. Strategic Brand said Kevin Samuels started a great movement. Yes, he started the movement of get my likes up. We're at 88,000, folks. We need 90,000 likes, please. We got about 8 minutes left in this live, and then we're done. Can we get to 100K? We need to get to 100K before this is done. We got 8 minutes. We need 12,000 likes. Just tap the screen, and you can contribute to the likes. There's 179 people in here. If all y'all just tap the screen for like 1 minute straight, we can easily get to 100,000 likes. Can we get the likes up, please? Samuels. Just like the live so we can get the likes up, folks. George said I have only one thumb. That's all you need. You only need one finger to do this. Ingrid said, all right, so I answered about PBD. And what I was answering, what I think about him. I don't really have a feeling about him. I'll tell you my thoughts about him. Yeah, we got to 80. Now we need to get to 100. We're at 90 right now. Saint said, people always want more. That's why Trump could fool them. This is only once in a lifetime. Well, they say that about every candidate. Let's see. Thank you, Mattis, for tapping the screen. Chubby said, amen, just like God said, God is not a feminist. I agree. Michelle said, most of what we enjoy in this world was invented by men. That's facts. Yes, invented, maintained, and protected by men. Let's add those two things in as well. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that as a woman. It doesn't make you less of a woman. Everybody has a role. I mean, no man has ever birthed a baby. I mean, so everybody has a role. And feminism has brainwashed a lot of females into believing that anything that they say that is deferential towards men is somehow a knock on you as a woman. That's not what it is. Everybody has to learn how to play their fucking role. I come from the sports world. In the sports world, everybody has to play their role. Everybody can't be fucking Michael Jordan. All right. In the human world, man is Michael Jordan and woman is Scottie Pippen. All right. Every now and then, Michael Jordan sits on the bench and Scottie Pippen can score a few points. But when push comes to shove, Michael Jordan, man is Michael Jordan. All right. And woman is Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen's a legend. He's in the Hall of Fame. He won 6 championships. He made a whole bunch of money and everybody knows his name. All right. You're not less of a person because you're Scottie Pippen. All right. But everybody can't be fucking Jordan. And in the human world, man is Jordan and woman is Pippen. That's it. Period. So some women out here, some of you feminists, you're like Kobe Bryant and you're trying to take Shaq's position. But when the team is winning championships, Shaq was Shaq and Kobe was Kobe. And Kobe got better. He got better. But the reason they won those 3 championships because Shaq was dominating. All right. Shaq dominated those series. Take Shaq out, they wouldn't have won those titles. And it's better. Pippen and Jordan is better because there was never a question. And Scottie Pippen knew to play his fucking role. When Kobe Bryant tried to take Shaq's spot, but Kobe Bryant was a loser for several years before he started winning again. It took a long time. But I'd rather let's just stick to the Pippen and Jordan is a better analogy anyway. Murphy said another straw man. Yeah, I caught it. So T90 said, I don't agree with him 80% of the time, but I agree with him on Israel being a drain to America. Fair enough. Giraffe student said, on a scale of 100, Shannon Sharp is 49 on interviewing. Well, the thing Shannon Sharp has is not that his questions are so amazing, is that Shannon Sharp he has relationships. So sometimes interviews are about, do you have the relationships with the people that you can get them on your show in the first place? That matters a lot in the world that we're in today. One of the reasons that journalism is falling apart is because a journalist doing real journalism is going to piss somebody off to the point that that person would never sit down and talk to you because you said something that they don't like. But true journalists don't mind doing that because their job is not being friends with you. Their job is getting to the truth. Shannon Sharp is not a journalist. Shannon Sharp is an interviewer, and he has a lot of good relationships with people to where he can get them to, number one, come on the show, and number two, he can get them to open up. That's what makes his show good. So there are certain people I heard on Shannon Sharp's show that I never heard them talk anywhere else, and the conversation was good because they are very comfortable with Shannon Sharp. So that matters as well. So there's all these different lanes. The Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens lane is a certain lane. Megyn Kelly has a lane. Shannon Sharp has his own lane, and that lane matters because, again, there are certain conversations that happen on that show that Cat Williams wouldn't have talked like that on somebody else's show. There's the other guy. What's the guy's name? Ali Sadiq. He's a comedian. I never heard of that dude before in my life, but I saw that interview and I'm like, this guy's actually cool. And then I listened to some of his comedy stuff on YouTube. So he brought me into his world because he was on Shannon's platform. So again, you got to respect the lane that somebody's in. Shannon is very good in his lane. His lane is, I got the relationships. You feel very comfortable talking to me. So you will open up and say things that you wouldn't say anywhere else. And that is a thing. And he does get credit for that. And again, Shannon got a whole bunch of interviews that got 1 million views in a day or two. We can't discredit that. We can't discredit that. We got to give credit where credit is due. Brenda said, thanks for hollering at the Cowgirls and Cowboys. Absolutely. Shout out to the Cowgirls and Cowboys. Matt says, Scottie Pippen won 6 championships, Hall of Fame. Everyone knows his name. That's right. Jay Scoma said, who's better, Jordan or Pippen? Jordan. Strategic Brand said, right. True journalism provokes critical thoughts. Exactly. Jazz said, you go identical to Earl Barlow. Who is Earl Barlow? Since I'm at the bottom of the comments, I'm going to look up Earl Barlow. So whoever said that, Josh, whoever Earl Barlow is, he better be a good-looking man. If not, we're going to have trouble. So let's see, Earl Barlow. Who is Earl Barlow? I'm trying to find who this is. Oh, so Earl Barlow is the director of Love and Hip Hop. This guy? I don't look anything like this guy. So this is Earl Barlow. First of all, he's way lighter skinned than I am. This is Earl. Is this the person you're talking about, Josh? Earl Barlow? First of all, this dude is way light skinned. He has all this facial hair, which I don't have. I mean, I would have it if I didn't shave, but I don't want anything like this dude. Here's Earl Barlow in a picture. I don't know who this girl is he's with. You saying I look like this guy? Where are you getting this from? Josh, you must be white because white people tend to look at black guys and think that we all look the same. I look nothing like this dude. Unless you're talking about somebody else. This is the Earl Barlow that I'm seeing. I don't look anything like this guy. No, I don't know where you must be white saying that I look like him. What are you talking about? So anyway, I do these live streams Monday through Friday. You're not white, so how the hell do you think I look like this dude? You should be able to delineate. Are you black? You should be able to delineate between different black guys looking different. How the hell do you think I look like this dude? What do I have in common with this guy? Features wise, he's way lighter than me. He's like 3 shades lighter than me. He has much thicker facial hair. He has a beard. How do I look like him? I heard somebody say that I look like I heard people say that I look like Earl Spence, the boxer. I had heard many people say that, and I looked at Earl Spence and I'm like, okay, I get that. So let's get a picture of Earl Spence. So him I could get. Somebody says, all right, you kind of look like Earl Spence. This is Earl Spence, the boxer. All right, that one I could kind of get. This one I understand. Somebody says this one. This is Earl Spence. That one I get. But this dude, no, this guy that you just said, Earl Barlow, no. This one is way off. So, Thunder winning the chip tonight? I think they would. If I had to bet, I would say yeah, they'll win. So, Brenda, no, the reason he was answering that he's not white is because I asked. I asked if he was white because white people tend to compare black guys and say that I look like another black guy and I don't look anything like him. But black people, I don't expect to make that mistake. See, if a white person says I look like this guy, then I would understand because you're white. You may not be able to kind of differentiate between black faces. But if a black person says it, I'm like, where the hell are you getting that from? So that's why I was asking. So anyway, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern, folks. I will be back tomorrow. Topic is to be determined. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll see what's in the news. Shout out to TikTok. I got through this whole live and I mentioned some places that I've been previously not mentioning, but since I got some context on what I can say on TikTok, the way it works on TikTok is that you can mention other countries, but you got to mention them. They listen to the context. So their AI is listening for the context in which you talk about it. So if you're trying to lean to one way or another or make a strong point on one side or another, they'll kick you off or ban you or give you a warning. But I was able to do it so down the middle today that I didn't even get a warning from TikTok. So congratulations to me on doing that. We got 100,000 likes. Thank you, everybody, for helping me get to 100,000. We got to 100,000 likes today. I appreciate that. The replay to this will be on my YouTube channel. The link is in my profile on TikTok. The link in my profile, the main link is workonyourgame.live. That is a page where you will get to see. Let me show you what you'll see when you go there. Workonyourgame.live gives you a link to learn more about me, what I do, get on my email list, get my books for free. Go to workonyourgame.live. That link is in my profile, whatever app you are watching me on. I'm on 7 different apps right now. Whatever app you're on, just go to this link right here, workonyourgame.live, and you'll see all of this stuff. All the links to my free books, my YouTube channel, my social media is all on there. Work on Your Game University is where we do the bulk of our work. That's where my coaching and consulting and enterprise work happens. So whether you run a small business, you're an individual entrepreneur, you run a sales team, we can help you through Work on Your Game University. That link is in this link. So go to workonyourgame.live to learn more about that. And I'll be back tomorrow. Usually we're talking about a current event. I don't know what we're going to talk about tomorrow. It depends on what's happening in the news. So I just look around, see what's going on, and then we pick a topic. So I got a couple that I've been sitting on that we might talk about. But if I see something that's bigger and better and juicier, then we'll talk about that tomorrow. But if you like my style, my approach, it really doesn't matter what the topic is because my style and my approach stay the same universally, regardless of the subject. So we'll be here tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, everybody. We don't go more than 2 hours. So it's 10 o'clock right now. We're wrapping this up. 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Make sure you're following me on TikTok. You can follow my Instagram. You can follow my YouTube. The links are on my profile on TikTok. Workonyourgame.live. Get a copy of my free book, The Third Day, is that book, that red book right there. Sales Discipline System is this book up here. The links are on this page that I just showed you. So again, that's the link in my profile. The links are on this page. I'll see everybody tomorrow at 8 a.m. I got to go to the bathroom. Everybody have a great Thursday. We are out of here. Work on your game. Giraffe students, exactly. They needed each other. Exactly.